David Reed pushed his tray along the meal distribution line and stared at the gray cube on his plate. According to the digital display, this cube contained all the nutrients his human body needed for the day. It even had the exact flavors of roasted chicken, programmed into its molecular structure. He picked it up and bit into it. The taste was there, technically correct, but something felt wrong. It was like eating a memory of food rather than actual food. Around him, students from 12 different species collected their own nutritional cubes. They seemed perfectly happy with their meals. Petra, his classmate from the silicate species, hummed a pleasant frequency as her crystalline fingers broke apart her mineral cube. Next to her, Moth from the Hiver colony clicked his mandibles with satisfaction. Rao, the deepling, absorbed his liquid nutrition cube through his skin pores. Everyone acted like this was normal. David had been at the Galactic Culinary Institute for 3 weeks now. He came here with excitement, hoping to learn about alien foods and share human cooking techniques. Instead, he found himself in what felt like a chemistry lab pretending to be a kitchen. Every lesson focused on molecular synthesis, precision temperature control down to the decimal point, and nutrient optimization. Nobody actually cooked anything. They programmed machines to assemble food at the atomic level. The Institute occupied an entire section of Station Harmony, one of the largest diplomatic stations in known space. Humans had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago, and David felt proud to be among the first human students here. But his pride was starting to mix with confusion. Where were the stoves? Where were the pots and pans? Why did everyone look horrified when he mentioned using a knife to chop vegetables? During afternoon class, Master Chef Oren entered the instruction hall. Oren belonged to the hexapod species and had 6 arms that moved with practiced grace. His reputation stretched across 7 star systems as the finest culinary educator in the galaxy. Students fell silent as he moved to the front of the room. "Students, attention, please," Oren announced, his translator device rendering his clicks and whistles into perfect standard speech. "The semester final challenge has been approved by the administration. This year, you will prepare a meal using only primitive methods." Excited whispers filled the room. David leaned forward with interest. "Finally, something that sounded like actual cooking," Oren continued. "You will have access to thermal regulation units from the 3rd technological era, basic molecular arrangers, without quantum assistance and manual preparation tools. The Galactic Council members will attend as honored guests. This is your opportunity to demonstrate your understanding of historical food preparation." David raised his hand. "Excuse me, Master Chef. When you say primitive methods, do you mean like cooking with fire?" The room went completely silent. Every student turned to stare at David. Petra's crystalline body flickered with orange warning colors. Moth's antennae flattened against his head in a fear response. Even Rao, usually calm, retreated slightly into his moisture suit. Oren's face, difficult for David to read due to the differences in their species, seemed to show something between shock and concern. "Mr. Reed, we do not joke about combustion-based food preparation in this institution." "I'm not joking," David said, genuinely confused. "On Earth, we still cook with fire all the time. Grilling, campfires, wood-fired ovens, it's normal." Oren's 6 arms crossed in what David had learned was a gesture of serious disapproval. "Mr. Reed, please remain after class. The rest of you begin researching 3rd era cooking techniques." Dismissed as the other students hurried out, many casting worried glances at David. He approached Oren's desk. "The master." Chef pulled up a bio-holographic display showing images of burning buildings, destroyed settlements, and accident reports. "David," Oren said, using his first name for the first time, "I understand humans are new to galactic society. Perhaps you don't know the history. Most species abandoned combustion cooking thousands of years ago. The hexapods lost an entire city to a kitchen fire 3,000 years ago. The silicates had colony-ending disasters from heat accidents. Fire is classified as a Class 7 hazard on every space station in the galaxy. It is banned, restricted, and feared for very good reasons." David looked at the images and felt understanding dawn. "But humans have been cooking with fire for hundreds of thousands of years. We're really good at it. We know how to make it safe." Oren's expression softened slightly. "Your species is young in space travel. You still do many things that others consider reckless. We don't judge humans for this. But here on this station, we follow protocols that keep everyone safe. The primitive methods I mentioned are still highly controlled, just less advanced than current technology. Please don't mention open flames again. It frightens the other students. David nodded slowly, but his mind was already working. The final challenge was about primitive cooking methods. Everyone else would use devices that were ancient by galactic standards, but still futuristic by human ones. They would struggle because they'd never actually felt heat, never learned to read a cooking surface, never developed intuition for when food was done. They learned cooking like a mathematical formula, not an art. He thought about his grandmother, his kitchen back on Earth, the gas stove that clicked when you turned it on, the cast iron skillet that had been in the family for generations, the smell of bread baking in the oven, real cooking with real heat, creating real food that satisfied something deeper than just nutritional needs. That evening, David sat in his quarters and composed a formal proposal to the Institute administration. He would demonstrate fire cooking in a controlled environment. He would show them that humans hadn't kept this ancient method because they were too primitive to advance. They kept it because it worked, because it was better, because food cooked over fire tasted like it was supposed to taste. He had sent on the proposal and leaned back. Either they would approve it, or they would think he was crazy. Maybe both. But David knew one thing for certain. If he was going to teach the galaxy about human food, he needed to show them real cooking. And real cooking meant fire. 3 days passed before David received a response to his proposal. During that time, word had spread about the human who wanted to bring fire onto the station. Students avoided him in the corridors. Even Petra, who had been friendly before, kept her distance. David ate his nutritional cubes alone and wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. The message finally came through on his personal datapad during breakfast. Proposal denied. Safety protocols cannot be compromised. Please report to Master Chef Oren's office immediately. David's heart sank as he made his way through the station's gleaming corridors. Oren's office was filled with cooking implements from 100 different worlds. Crystalline whisks that sang when stirred, magnetic cutting boards that held ingredients perfectly, temperature probes that could measure heat in 17 different dimensional frequencies, all of it useless for what David wanted to do. Sit down, David, Oren said, gesturing to a chair designed for beings with more or fewer legs than humans. David adjusted it and sat. Your proposal was read by the entire safety committee. 3 members recommended you be expelled from the program. David started to protest, but Oren raised 2 of his 6 hands. However, 5 members, including myself, found the proposal intriguing. We watched videos you included from Earth. Humans sitting around fires, cooking food, laughing together. It was beautiful. It was also terrifying. Master Chef, I promise it's safe when done properly, David said. Humans do this every day. We have it in our parks, our backyards, our beaches. Kids learn fire safety in school. It's part of our culture. Oren pulled up a holographic display. It showed a disaster report from the Hiver homeworld, dated almost 2,000 years ago. The Hivers once used thermal cooking. A single spark reached their papery nesting structures. 40,000 individuals died in 3 hours. This is why Moth fears fire instinctively. His species' genetic memory carries that trauma. More images appeared. Silicate colonies cracked by thermal shock. Deepling settlements where heat dried their moisture barriers. Hexapod cities where uncontrolled flames spread through connected buildings. Each disaster was meticulously documented. Each loss of life carefully recorded. Every species here has reasons to fear fire, Oren continued. And then humans arrived, treating it like a friendly pet. Do you understand why this seems insane to us? David looked at the images and felt the weight of all that history. But he also thought about his own species' history. Master Chef, humans have disasters too. We've burned forests, destroyed cities, hurt ourselves learning, but we didn't abandon fire. We learned to control it better. We developed safety measures, building codes, fire departments. We made it part of our lives safely because the benefits were worth the effort. Oren was quiet for a long moment. His 6 arms moved in patterns that David had learned meant deep thinking. Finally, he spoke. The Galactic Council representatives heard about your proposal. They're curious. Against my better judgment and with severe restrictions, you have permission for one demonstration. David felt excitement surge through him. Really, thank you. I won't let you down. Wait, Oren said firmly. Listen to the conditions. You will work in Testing Bay 7, which is designed for hazardous material experiments. The bay has automatic fire suppression systems every 2 meters. Observers will remain behind barrier shields. Medical teams will be on standby. Station security will monitor everything. At the first sign of danger, the demonstration ends and you will be removed from the program. Do you accept these terms? I accept, David said without hesitation. One more thing, Oren added. This is not just about cooking anymore. The council wants to understand human risk tolerance. They want to see if humans can truly control what others fear. You're not just representing yourself or this institute. You're representing your entire species. The galaxy will be watching. The weight of that responsibility settled on David's shoulders, but he nodded. When can I start preparing? You have 5 days. Submit a list of everything you need. Nothing explosive, nothing toxic, nothing that could breach station hull. The demonstration will occur during the final challenge ceremony. All students and staff will observe. David spent the next 2 days planning every detail. He wrote procedures for fire safety that would satisfy even the most nervous alien administrator. He researched which Earth ingredients could safely pass station biosecurity. He designed a traditional fire pit that would work in the testing bay's contained environment. His fellow students watched him with a mixture of awe and horror. Moth approached him in the library, antennae twitching nervously. David, is it true? You're really going to make fire inside the station? Yes, David confirmed. Want to watch? Moth's compound eyes reflected the library lights in rainbow patterns. I'm terrified, but also curious. Hivers are taught from hatching that fire means death, yet you seem so calm about it. How? David thought about how to explain. My species grew up with fire. We sat around it for warmth on cold nights. We cooked our food over it. We used it for light before we had electricity. It's not our enemy. It's a tool we learned to use carefully. But don't you fear it? Moth asked. I respect it, David said. That's different. I know fire can hurt me if I'm careless, so I'm not careless. I follow rules that my ancestors learned over thousands of generations. Fire responds predictably if you understand it. More students began asking David questions. Petra wanted to know if her crystalline structure would crack from thermal shock. Rail worried about humidity loss near heat sources. David answered each question patiently, realizing he wasn't just preparing a cooking demonstration. He was teaching an entire station about something they thought they understood, but had only experienced through fear. On the 5th day, David's supplies arrived from Earth. Real wood, already tested and certified as non-toxic. Charcoal made from sustainable sources. Cast iron cookware that had survived multiple generations. Fresh ingredients that he would prepare by hand with real knives and cutting. Boards that didn't hover or self-clean. He carried everything to testing bay 7 and began setting up. The bay was huge, designed for experiments with dangerous chemicals or unstable materials. Suppression nozzles dotted the ceiling. Blast shields could drop in milliseconds. Sensors monitored everything from temperature to air composition. In the center of this high-tech safety chamber, David built something his ancestors would recognize immediately. A circle of stones, a bed for charcoal and wood, a simple grill grate suspended on supports. It looked primitive, surrounded by all the advanced technology. It looked perfect. Oren visited the bay the evening before the demonstration. He walked around David's setup, his 6 arms touching the stones, examining the wood, studying the arrangement. So simple, Oren said quietly. The best things usually are, David replied. Are you nervous, honestly? Yes, but also excited. Food cooked over fire tastes better than anything a synthesizer can make. Once people try it, they'll understand. Oren nodded slowly. I hope you're right, David, I truly do. Because if this goes wrong, it won't just end your time here. It might set back human integration into the galaxy by decades. David looked at the fire pit he had built and thought about all the humans throughout history who had sat beside similar fires. They had survived. They had thrived. They had created civilization in the glow of controlled flame. Tomorrow he would show the galaxy why humans never gave that up. The observation gallery above, testing bay 7, filled up too. Hours before the scheduled demonstration, David could see faces pressed against the transparent aluminum barriers. Students, staff members, station workers who had heard rumors about the crazy human and his fire. Security personnel stood at every exit, their hands near emergency controls. Medical teams had set up a triage station just outside the bay. The whole scene felt less like a cooking demonstration and more like preparation for a disaster. David stood in the center of the bay, wearing his chef's jacket from Earth. Around him, he had arranged his ingredients on a simple metal table. fresh vegetables from the station's hydroponics garden, fish from the deepling aquaculture tanks, flour that he had mixed himself for bread. Everything was laid out like he was preparing for a backyard cookout, not performing in front of representatives from a dozen different civilizations. The Galactic Council members arrived precisely on time. David recognized them from his orientation materials. Ambassador Hera from the Silicates, her body made of living crystal that refracted light into rainbow patterns. Commander Rin of the Hiver military, his carapace decorated with battle honors. Counselor Dex from the Deepling depths, inside a specialized suit that kept his skin moist. 6 others representing species David had only read about. They took their seats in the gallery's front row, separated from the bay by triple-layered barriers and an emergency force field generator. Oren's voice came through the bay speaker system. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings of all classifications, today human student David Reed will demonstrate a cooking technique that has not been performed on any registered station in recorded history. Safety protocols are engaged. Emergency systems are active. Mr. Reed, you may begin when ready. David took a deep breath and picked up his fire starter kit. It was a simple tool, just flint and steel, the same kind humans had used for thousands of years. He knelt beside his carefully constructed fire pit and struck the flint. Sparks jumped. He struck again, aiming them at the small bundle of dried grass he had prepared as tinder. The moment the first spark caught and a tiny flame appeared, alarms began screaming throughout the station. Red lights flashed. The speaker system blared warnings in 12 languages simultaneously. David heard gasps and shouts from the observation gallery. He ignored all of it and gently blew on his tiny flame, feeding it wisps of grass, watching it grow. In the gallery, chaos erupted. Half the observers scrambled for the exits. Petra's crystalline body flashed bright orange in distress. Moth had flattened himself against the wall as far from the bay as possible. Rail's moisture suit began pumping extra coolant. Security personnel shouted into communication devices. Someone was demanding immediate evacuation of the entire section. Oren's voice cut through the noise, amplified to override the alarms. Everyone remain calm. The protocols are responding to heat signatures as designed. The human is in a contained environment. There is no immediate danger. Please stay seated. But staying calm proved impossible for beings whose species had evolved to fear fire on an instinctive level. David could see the terror in their faces even as he calmly transferred his small flame to larger pieces of wood. The fire grew, reaching up from the fire pit with orange and yellow fingers. Smoke rose toward the bay's ventilation system, triggering additional sensors. A station administrator David didn't recognize burst into the gallery. Shut it down. Shut everything down right now. The demonstration has approval from the council, Oren said firmly, though David noticed even his confident voice had a tremor. We will proceed unless council members themselves order a halt. All eyes turned to Ambassador Hera. Her crystalline structure vibrated with what David had learned was anxiety. She stared at the fire through multiple layers of protective barriers. David added a few pieces of charcoal to the flames, arranging them with a stick to create different heat zones. To him, this was second nature. To everyone watching, it looked like he was playing with death itself. I've reviewed the human safety data, Hera said slowly, her voice like wind chimes in a storm. Statistically, they perform this activity billions of times annually with minimal incident. I'm frightened, but I am also curious. Let him continue. The administrator looked like he wanted to argue, but simply nodded and stepped back. The alarms mercifully were silenced, though the warning lights continued their red pulse. David glanced up at the gallery and offered a small wave, trying to show how relaxed he felt. This probably wasn't reassuring, given that everyone else saw him standing next to what they considered a bomb. He let the fire burn down until the charcoal glowed with perfect, even heat. While it settled, he prepared his ingredients. He cut vegetables into pieces, seasoned the fish with herbs, mixed water into his flour to form rough dough. His movements were practiced and calm. This was just cooking. This was what humans did. Moth's voice came through the speaker system, quiet but audible. He's not afraid. Look at him. He's not afraid at all. Humans feel fear differently about certain things, Oren explained to the gallery, taking on a teaching tone despite his own nervousness. Their species has integer.